Hello, Trent Clark here, CEO of Leadershipity, serial entrepreneur, and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am thrilled to be with you. I am a five-star rated international speaker, and I am also the longtime coach in professional baseball, coaching in 3 World Series, and super excited to be with you today. I'm wearing my Coach K Duke hat in honor of his another Elite Eight win yesterday, and I can't believe it, but he did it again, and it is absolutely amazing that he just continues to impress. And today on the Winners Find a Way show, I do not have an interview. Today's episode will be dedicated to the best in the world. The best in the world. And we have a series called The Best in the World because after coaching the best in the world in my life, there's some certain characteristics that the best in the world have that people should understand. Hey, I would like to be the best. Let's talk about what the best in the world have. And today, what we're going to talk about is the best in the world have courage. They have courage beyond the norm. When you look at like the days of professional sports for me, not one single player that ever played in the major leagues, every single one of them was told at some point, you probably won't make it. It's a hard league. There's so many players, so many different things. You're not going to make it. You don't have what it takes. I mean, that is a lot of people telling you negative things. And the best in the world have the courage to face that and say, yes, I think I can do it. Yes, I don't care what you say. It's not that I'm not listening. It's not that I don't respect it. It's the fact that I am on a mission to do something in this life and I am going to do it. And so they have to have the courage to even face challenges. They have the courage to face fear. And there's a lot of fear along the way, for sure. I mean, that is a common stroke in when you get into the game. There's a lot of fear of not making a mistake, being challenged with that. It's not great to play in fear. So you get very focused on what you can do, not what you cannot. So that is a critical element of courage. A couple things that really come to mind this week is that there was recently all this week there has been the trial or the questioning of a nominee into our Supreme Court, Judge Jackson, and one person had asked in this questioning about whether she could define what a woman was. Thought it was an interesting question. I didn't think it would be a hard question, but in today's social status and society, that may be a little tougher than people think. And I think wisely, probably, Judge Jackson skirted the question, right? I am not a biologist, was her answer. Like, hey, maybe I'm not qualified to say that. Now, for me, I mean, I thought it was an easy question when she asked, but maybe it's not so simple, right, anymore for people. But, for all the years of my life, over 50 years, that's been a pretty simple question of defining a man or a woman. And we've done that from the restrooms from the beginning ago with the stick figure man and the stick figure girl. Like, I don't know. So it's changed a little bit. So maybe wise on her part not to answer the question and go into a whole media blitzkrieg. But what I did not like is I like people that are convicted in their views. I like people to say, hey, listen, I am standing on that and I have the courage to stand. This is what I stand for unapologetically. I will tell you the reasons of why I stand for that. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to agree with them. These are the reasons I stand for it. This is the research I've done, and this is why I think what I think. And I can tell you the experiences I've had and why I believe that. These are my values, and I'm convicted to this because these are my values. And guess what? It takes courage and conviction to stand up and say, this is what I stand for. It is not an easy thing. And I really appreciate and honor that. And even when I hear someone who's very convicted and has the courage to talk about their convictions, and I don't agree with them, I may not like them, I may not like their views, but I still have respect for that. I find a lot of respect for people who are willing to give Courage. And I think we see that in our society. We're fearful to look foolish. I see these kids today who are coming up in athletics and they don't want to do things that they're not good at. I'm not good at that. Well, you're not good at that yet because you haven't done it 1,000 times. You're just learning how to do it. And when you first learn how to do something, it's not very easy. It's not very smooth. It doesn't look like the people who have done it thousands and thousands of times. And I really get that. But sometimes we have to go out and give our effort and look foolish and be okay with looking foolish. There is courage in that to go out there and say, this is what I'm going for. The bigger prize far outweighs this small momentary foolishness that I might look like. And we have to be okay with that. And I'm asking kids like, hey, stop worrying about what your friends think that you looked foolish yesterday on the basketball court, or you didn't look great out there on your field hockey team because you're just learning this style or that style. Like that that is not they're not judging you. They're not choosing the teams. They're not a college coach who's going to put you on their team. They're just friends and they could make comments and hopefully your friends encourage you and support you, but sometimes they don't. And you got to be okay like, hey, I'm going for something bigger and in the momentary time that it's going to look foolish or not look great, I'm just working on it and practicing it and I'm okay with looking a little foolish. And I think, there's just a ton of courage that goes into that. And I love the person who's not the best dancer, who goes out on the dance floor and just lets it out, right? Like everyone's like going, "Whoa, this is crazy. Like look at the moves." And that's fine. Like, you know what? I love it. Dance like nobody's watching. What do you care? What do you care? I mean, I am constantly surprised by how many people are so concerned about what other people think. And when they're going to be absolutely surprised when they find out how infrequently people actually think of them. Because we're all focused on ourselves. We're not focused on other people. I mean, that is not the space that things are happening. I mean, it's not a concern for them what you decide to do. It's what matters in your heart, right? So this courage to go out there and do it. I love the conviction of John Wooden. There's a great story about John Wooden when he was a coach. Standard operating procedures. These are rules and regulations that we abide by as UCLA basketball members. And that was very important. And he had a player named Bill Walton who was the best player in the country. He was labeled the best player, player of the year in college basketball the year prior. And Coach Wooden had very strict rules for the team on dress code, attire, how you looked, all the things, hair length, shaven face, how you represent the school. That was very important to Coach Wooden and for the organization. You were playing for that organization on a scholarship. You were paid your schooling to come and play, and so that was certainly a key kind of element there to Coach Wooden's stance. And here they'd won the national championship, and here's the best player in the country coming back. And in off season, the players did not have to represent the university, and they could dress the way they wanted. He expected them to be respectful, everything else, but at the end of the day, not under his guise, not under his rules. As they return to basketball for the season, uh, Bill Walton, the named player of the year, says, "Come on, coach. This is the 70s now. Like I want to wear my facial hair long. I want to be me, and this is me. This is how I see myself." He's like, "That's awesome. Like, Bill, I think that's wonderful." And I love this statement. He says, "Bill, you're really convicted on this." And he goes, "Yeah, coach, this is how I want to be." And he goes, "I really have a lot of respect and I can honor a man of his convictions. We are going to miss you here at UCLA." Like that's it. Like, hey, you can be a person of your convictions. I don't need to agree with it. And I'm going to be following the rules and the rules that we set. And I'm the authority that garners those rules and sits over those rules that make sure that they're followed, right? So if you don't want to follow our rules, like, hey, I have a lot of respect and honor for your convictions. If this is the way you want to carry yourself, like, great. You can't do that at UCLA under our rules. So you won't be on the team. That's it. We're gonna miss you here. And he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, hey, I didn't say I didn't want to be on the team. Well, that's what you're saying because you're convicted to these things, and these aren't our standards and our rules. I see this all the time in businesses and companies. We have our value systems of our company, of our organization, of our team. These are our values, and we would like to uphold those values in all things. And do people err? Yes. Do people make mistakes? Yes, they do. But at the end of the day, a consistent repeater on those values is saying, hey, I'm not willing to follow your system inside this organization and maintain my employment or my member status or team status in this organization. I mean, they're just telling you that. And someone has to have the courage to say, hey, listen, these are our standards, these are our values, these are our rules and regulations, and we all follow them. And if you choose not to, hey, I can honor a person who wants to live by different rules and convictions. And if you want to do that, you just can't do that here. So I wish you luck. And I don't see organizations stand up and say that very much. I see them try to work with them and give them 7, 8, 9 times. And then after a 9-time offense on our values, on our team rules, on our organizational guides, right? Or our employee manual that says this is our standards. After a 9-time offender who's still there does it, they point to, Trent over here, the 9-time offender. And then your superstar Trish offends these rules and values one time, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, can you believe it? Our best member, Trish, has just broken the I think we should fire her. I cannot believe she's crossed this line. And she's like, whoa, whoa. Trent's done it 9 times. Like, why is everybody so upset? Like, one time? He gets to do 9 times and I can only do 1 time? How's that work? We are not being courageous in our leadership. You either are convicted and you have reasons and research and values that go behind that, and you stand on it. Consistency is going to matter when it comes to courage. Are you going to be consistently courageous about the things that matter? That's going to be a critical element for you as a leader. The other challenge of courage is when we make decisions as leaders, and there's a lot of decisions to make. You are making decisions for a lot of people. I tell organizations as their leadership group comes in, you are making a decision for your organization on a 4-to-1 ratio. What does that mean? So if you have 200 personnel involved in your organization, these organizations are livelihoods for people. They are part of the fabric of how they have a career, how they have a job, income. This is how they pay for food, shelter, college, everything, schooling for kids, all sorts of different things. This is their source. The average family has 4 people. 2 people, 2 adults, 2.2 kids, a little over 4. So you're sitting with 200 people inside your organization, which means 4 people will be likely affected by any decision that happens inside that organization for that person's livelihood and career. So as we make decisions, we're not just considering the 200 personnel around here. We're considering the downstroke of all the people that might affect. You're making a decision for 800 people. That's a pretty big responsibility. And if you're going to have the courage to lean into those decisions, it's going to be very critical that you understand that not everybody's going to agree with your decision. They don't have the information that you made the decision. Maybe they don't have access to it. Maybe they didn't read the memos. Maybe they just don't it's not in their role and responsibility to have all those things that you have access to. I mean, this is one of the biggest challenges I had in professional sports. Everyone sits watching a TV game and says, "Oh my gosh, how can that person miss that play? How could they miss that ground ball?" First of all, never intentional. No one ever misses a ground ball on purpose. They are trying, making an effort. So critical, right? They're certainly trying their best. But at the end of the day, they made a mistake. And they've had tons of coaching, tons of preparation, tons of just repetition, 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 repetition. And for someone who doesn't understand that, they just think like, oh, I rarely see people make mistakes at this level. So it's uncanny when I do see it and level and recognize the consistency. As we see the best shooters in the world play in the NHL, the best players, the fastest, the hardest shots of everywhere in the world, and the best goalies in that league save over 90% of the shots, 9 out of 10. And then people watch a Sports Center highlight and go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe the goalie missed that shot. That was so easy." He shot it over 100 miles an hour, right? Like, shots are being made from the best players in the world. I mean, we just don't seem to identify the level of preparation and play and things that go into being an expert in something, to being really good at this. And if you're going to be a really good leader, you are also going to have to get in that. But coming back to these decisions, you are going to research, you're going to do your due diligence, you're going to poll your team, you're going to talk with them, there's going to be discussion, and decisions are going to be made. And even after all those things you've done, to you, and where you think, wow, this is our best decision, and I am 100% that everyone in the organization is going to agree with it. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The courage is going to be the fact that somewhere between probably 40 and 48% of the people in your organization are not going to agree with your decision. Whether they know the information or not, whether they're just spouting opinion, whether they just had a discussion with somebody else in the motor pool, or someone else in the teacher's lounge, or someone else in the locker room, or wherever else someone just had a conversation. They had their discussion. They both know 20, 30% of the information. They talked about it, and they don't seem to agree with the decision. But your consideration as a leader is for all 800 personnel. This is in their best interest. And fully well knowing that this may affect 100 or 150 of these people negatively in the short term, or something to that effect. It will make their job harder in our organization because of this decision. But it's in the best interest of the stability of the organization, of the long-term value of the organization, or even in the short-term value. Like, we're considering things, and it may adversely affect others. But overall, we still believe this is the best decision for our organization. People are not going to agree with it. You are going to have the courage to stand up and say, these are my reasons, done my research, this is why, and these are our values, and we're sticking to them. And understand that people won't agree, and be okay with that. As leaders, I say this a lot, alignment does not equal agreement. Alignment does not equal agreement. The best in the world understand when you are a courageous person and I need people's alignment. As an authority, I'm going to get them in alignment with the direction we're going. The best teams are all moving in the same direction. They are coming right at this. They're not going here, 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 or worse, this way. I've got half the team going this way, half the team going this way. Those are bad organizations that are not effectively working well together. The best in the world are working in alignment. They are going forward, and they're going fast, and they are not all in agreement. They're not. I don't know if I agree with it, but I trust this organization. I trust our leaders. I am willing to be in alignment with what they've asked me to do. This is my role. I don't necessarily agree with some of the things we're doing. I don't agree with what they're doing over in marketing. I don't agree with what we're doing on the pitching side of the softball team. Like, guess what? I just need your alignment. I don't need your agreement right now. Softball outfield, I don't need your agreement with what we're doing with the pitching staff or the relief pitching staff on the softball team. Like, I just need your alignment. This is the direction we're going. Support our team members. Be a part of it. And if you got questions, let's have some one-on-one discussions. I don't know if I can convince you that you still think it's a good idea, but I'm willing to try. Just not having those tough and fierce conversations. And we don't know, quite frankly, how to do them. There's a great book called Fierce Conversations. Highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. And then I think the other thing is that getting good at productive conflict is a real asset to someone who's courageous. If you're going to have courage, you're going to have conflict. I mean, that's the best in the world, have conflict the entire time. If you've heard this show, Winners Find a Way, I interview 1%ers all the time. They are the best in the world at something. So they do businesses, they do all sorts of different things, run organizations, and they tell you about conflict after conflict after conflict on the way to get there. Challenges, left and right. Challenges are a chance to get better. If we have challenges, let's face them on, head on, meet it, and let's get better. Let's get better together. How do we do productive conflict? Conflict's not bad. And for people who are employed, you're probably employed because there's challenges and they need someone who can face those challenges, overcome them by solving them or building a way around those challenges to make something work. That's what employees do every single day, is run into adversity, be challenged by it, meet that adversity head on, and then overcome that adversity. The employees that cannot do that and the challenges keep piling up and they can't overcome anything don't get to stay. We need people that can handle some challenges and do some things and find a way to win. That's what we need. And so when we're looking at that, it takes courage to run into challenge, to be a person to handle conflict professionally, get very good at productive conflict. It's so critical today that having rules of engagement around conflict, to me, is something I highly recommend in organizations. We do it in a ton of organizations I work with. Hey, these are the rules. If this happens and conflict escalates to this level, whoosh, we stop and we engage. The rules of engagement around productive conflict. And since we're all going to have conflict, why wouldn't we have a system for how we're going to do conflict well? Like, wouldn't that be a good idea? Like, have a structure of how we'll address conflict and teach other people in the organization a good, solid structure of productive conflict. Because if you're the organization that solves the toughest challenges, the toughest conflicts out there, your organization is going to surpass a ton of other organizations. They don't know how to do it. It's going to be a skill set. Got to have the courage to face it. As leaders, this is a big one. I see people that have challenge, have conflict, and they don't face it, right? They run away from it. They ignore the conflict. They sweep the challenge under the rug. That's not courageous behavior. That's not the courage to face hard things, to do things out of our comfort zone, to get uncomfortable. I beg you, leaders, be people of courage. If you're going to be out there and you're going to take on this role, it is not going to be easy. Courage is required. Best in the world have that courage. The best in the world don't take no for an answer in what they're going for. They are standing on their convictions. This is what I've been working for. Find a way to get around when someone says, hey, no, I don't think you're good enough. No, I don't think you could be the national sales director. No, I don't think you can be first chair on the violin. No, I don't think. First of all, these people telling you, do they know anything about it? Why are we accepting one person's opinion as truth? If you are convicted on this, we have to stand on our convictions, reason, research, and values. Have to be consistent, consistently courageous, time and time again. It's a day-to-day win. Got to do it every day. Be okay with people not agreeing with you. It's all right. Have the courage to make tough decisions and be okay with the fact that we're making decisions for all the people involved in this process, all the people in the organization, for what's best, both short-term and long-term. Both things matter, right? Be courageous enough to challenge and dive into the conflict. Conflict is where we learn. Challenges are where we get better. Like, hey, these are the way how we get better process, how we get, all of our brilliant minds around us to resolve tough issues that we haven't been able to resolve. But together, we find ways to do that through conflict and facing the adversity and challenge. But you have to have courage to face it. And that is for sure. For everybody, thank you for joining me on the Winners Find a Way show. Trent Clark, the best in the world. Have courage. I can't wait to see you next week, every Friday, 12:30 Eastern Time and 9:30 a.m. Pacific on the Winners Find a Way show. You can find us on LinkedIn, Leadershipity, our Leadershipity YouTube channel, and Facebook Live. And all of our content is always back on Leadershipity YouTube Live and YouTube channel. So please follow us there. Forward the message on to other people that you think need to hear this today. And I thank you for joining us. Leadershipity.com. You can find me on all the major networks, Trent M. Clark or Leadershipity on all the socials. And I look forward to you next time. And you can always join us every Friday, 2 p.m. for Ask Me Anything with Coach Trent. And I always have some great questions. So we'll see you then.